All right. Hello, everyone. It's hard to believe that 2025 is right around the corner. And with that in mind, we just came out with our pre-buy canola program, which saves you 8% if you guys want to place an order in November and pay for it first part of December. The picture in the foreground, that is a strip trial that Rimrock Ranch put in this last year. A big shout out to Jack and Ben and Jim Herman for doing it, especially Jack. I think there's 6 different strips here. This is actually, that picture is at the tail end of bloom. So you could tell the earlier varieties are just starting to shut down, whereas later varieties are still pretty much full bloom. The other thing I'd like to thank everyone, all of our growers. This last fall, we set a record once again for seed sales. Seed season just pretty much wrapped up here in the last week or two. It was kind of a long, drawn out season. Seemed like we had a lot of weekends in there, but yeah, once again, we had record sales. I didn't think we'd beat last year's record sales, but we did that. So really want to thank everyone for coming to PNW and buying your seed. We're kind of go over previous year's trial data. 2021, that this was both Albion and Genesee. Want to give a big shout out to Clark Farms. They've been our cooperator at Albion for the last 4 years. Of course, they grow a lot of canola. Been growing it for a long time. Both Ian and Gavin, they're always a pretty good grower resource for me or the other field staff to reach out to, just because they have a lot of experience raising canola. You can see in the 2021 drought year, interesting here, kind of later maturing varieties, 955 or 9978, 344, kind of topped the yield trials, even though it was an extremely hot, dry summer. Jumping into 2022, this was a really nice trial that we had at Genesee. I was pretty proud of it. I think we had 5-foot alleyways that were almost completely closed up by the time we put the combine in them. Really want to share it because it took some really good shatter ratings on these varieties. What I did with the plot combine, when I'd move the header in about 3 feet into the rep and let the reel come around and really knock those pods. You can see 9978 rated it a 0. Or in other words, I had 0 pod shatter with that rail hitting it. Whereas a variety like Starflex or Pacific Gold, shattered about half the pods out. So anything rated a 2 or better, I would say is pretty safe bet to grow. Something that you can direct cut. You can see here 9221 toward the top. I have it rated a 1. So maybe not quite as good as 9978, but it's going to be one of those varieties. It's pretty safe. Maybe a 50-mile-an-hour windstorm for 8 hours. You might shatter a few pods on the ridges, but any of these, like I said, rated 2 or better, pretty safe bet. 2022, this was a trial at Clark Farms. Of course, seems like every year now we've been doing a seed rate study, looking at 6, 9, or 12 plants per square foot. You can see clear over here on the right, that would be equivalent of pounds per acre. So essentially 3, 4, 5 pounds the acre. You can see this year, we'll talk about it, how it turned out that year. 22, we had a large grow bore trial at Doug Stout's. 9221 won that trial. I think across all 3 locations that year, 9221 was pretty much at the top. At that time, it was still an experimental. We hadn't started selling it, but after our 22 data, that's really what got us excited about it. 2023, it took over probably at least half the canola acres, competing with 9978. 2023, here we have Genesee and Albion combined. We did not have a grow more trial in 23 or last year with Winfield. A lot of what they're doing winter increases in South America. I think last year, by the time that seed got harvested, South America got chipped up here. It was mid-May, and we were well done seeding last year by then. So that trial did not go in, but luckily we got it in this year. You can see here 9221 between Genesee and Albion. Did very well, 110% of the trial mean. Just kind of solidifies what we saw in 2022. Jumping in 2024 now. So this is brand new data. Hopefully you guys, no one's really have seen this. Of course, we'll put all this in our compendium. Some of this we'll probably share at our winter grower meeting as well. But if you're considering canola, for next year, what's a good variety to grow? Hopefully that's why you're watching this presentation. Want to thank Rick Bestel. This is about 5 miles south of Genesee, getting fairly close to the Genesee Rim, a little warmer, drier out there. Rick's a big canola grower, been raising a lot of acres the last few years. This was a big field of CS 2600. And then we ended up getting these 2 bags from Winfield. There was 50-pound bags of each, experimental. Rick's really good to work with on stuff like this. Ran them out to Rick, and he did the 2 outside rounds with both these varieties. Ended up running out there when he started cutting the trial with the weigh wagon. Of course, 40-foot strips. Rick runs a 35-foot header. Kind of cut the center out of all 3 of these. 90-224. Really, the only reason I want to share this, you can see it was, almost 300 pounds better, 2600. Very early maturing variety, just like we saw with 9221 in 2022. This variety performed really well this year. Unfortunately, it's not going to be available until 2026, so we'll test it again next year. Hopefully, maybe there's a little bit of demo seed we can get out there to 1 or 2 growers. But if it performs next year like it did this year, it's probably going to be a really big variety. Here we have the Albion canola trials. This was a beautiful site. Ian told us, kind of sent me a pin where to put the trial. And he said, if you get up on top of the hill, is where we want you to put it. And got out here, you could see the road was about 300-400 yards to the south, and started going up the hill and going up the hill, and it was pretty steep, a pretty good hike for this fat old guy. But got up here, and it was a beautiful spot, pretty much southern exposure. The bottom third of the trial, or the trial on the left, is varieties. You can see there's some differences here in maturity between some of them. The remainder of this trial was foliar trials that Shannon and Bryce did. Shannon's going to share that information in the compendium, and a lot of that we'll probably talk about at the grower meeting. You can see here 930, interesting, won the trial by quite a bit, 250 pounds, followed by the higher plant population, a 9221, the 12 plants per square foot. Once again, I'll talk about that a little later on. 90-224, statistically was right up at the top, performed really well here. Jumping over to Genesee, I'm kind of embarrassed with this trial this year. We put this trial over the top of our spring grain trials that we've had for the last 7-8 years. A little bit of wireworm pressure in here. I don't think that had any impact on that. We seeded the trial fairly early. I believe it was April 12th. Still pretty wet back there on the flat. I wouldn't say we mudded the trial in, but it was definitely on the wetter side. Unfortunately, about 3 days after we seeded it, we did get a real heavy downpour. I think we picked up 1/2 inch. So you take wet ground with a really hard rain on that. We ended up seeing some crusting here. Ended up getting about 50% emergence. Honestly, it probably would have been fine. other than, the flea leaf beetle came in. So, we lost half the plants with the emergence, and then we probably lost another 20% of those plants with flea leaf beetle. And they ended up spraying this trial 3 times. But that's a problem when you have a canola trial with no surrounding canola. It just really attracts the bugs. You can see here, though, really the only reason I want to share this trial, the data is kind of junk, in my opinion. But 9224 did phenomenally well, really stood out, really quick emerger, really quick to get established. I think one thing we saw in this trial, we didn't have a lot of interplant competition that really pushed that crop to maturity. Started blooming, the very end of June. It was a little late. Of course, we had a really cool June, didn't have the heat units on the flat. And then we know what happened in July. It got really hot, really shut this crop down. I think if we would have had a cool July, our yields here probably would have been double. That canola was starting to really branch out, fill in, which canola will do. But when the July heat hit, it pretty much the final nail in the coffin. Looking at our 2-side average for this last year, this is based on your seed costs. So I think that's one thing we really need to start paying attention to. You can see over here a 4-pound seed rate. You could maybe get by with 6 plants per acre at 9221, about a 3-pound seed rate. That's, going to save you quite a bit of money, especially where canola seed is so expensive. These 2 and bigger lines, extremely good agronomic, solid varieties, always yield fairly well. Really good pod shatter resistance. But you could see here pretty high seed cost. So you take the average yield, both locations, figure out, current board price, $17.75 net on canola currently. That gives you your gross per acre, and then you take out those seed costs. This gives you your net per acre. So, if you're seeding with a double disc or single disc drill, maybe more conventional, you're getting really good seed to soil contact next spring. Seeding in a good moisture, and let's say we're more mid spring instead of early spring, we're past that frost window where we could lose some seedlings. Feel free to drop those seed rates back. You can see here yield, we still maintain a really good yield with the 6 plants, and then saving that extra, $15, $20 an acre in seed costs. This ended up being your best net return. So 9224, you can see for the, experimentals or varieties that, I really couldn't put that seed cost to, had the best gross at $366. Here's that strip trial that Jack and Ben put in. Pretty unique here. I know a few of you guys were aware that we were selling a little bit of this Max End Vine and Veg. Really wanted to get it out there, have some guys do some field splits. It's definitely something we're going to be selling in the future. I think just, makes the co-op a little more diverse. No one else was really selling this product out here, and we've tested it for 3 or 4 years, seen some really good results. So here we have 9221 followed by 930. You can see both these varieties on the left, very early maturing. Once again, this is post bloom. Of course, here we have 354, 2600, 9978, where they are later maturing varieties. You can see they're really still getting with it. Ben came out, said, hey, could you do a strip of the Vine and Veg? And he said, yeah. But what he ended up doing was a field split. So everything left of this blue line had 32 ounces. This was at Roundup application or second Roundup application. So it was prior to first bloom. And then the remainder of the field, he ran 3 gallons of rally. So we'll see how they did. So here's the results of that trial. Cantera 2600. Once again, a little later maturing variety. I think the biggest knock on it, has fairly good pod shatter tolerance, but it's super tangly. I think when you're cutting it, you're going to have to run about a half a mile an hour slower. Just doesn't feed into the header as well. Real similar to 9978 in that aspect. I think that's the biggest knock on that variety as well. Just kind of a slower grind. Where they are a little later maturing too, if we have a cooler, August, or we get some rain in August, those two varieties can kind of hang on for quite a while. 9221 with the Vine and Veg, you can see took second at 2,720 pounds. I think just the opposite of 2,600 or 9978. It's fairly early, short, going to be one of the shortest varieties that we sell. But guys love cutting it. It just feeds into the header really good. Everyone can cut it a little longer. Seems like the draw bottoms a little more determinate as well. You go out there and cut the whole field, whereas some of those later maturing varieties, you cut the hilltops and the south sides, and then you got to leave the draw bottoms for a week later and come back and pick those up. You can see 9221 with 3 gallons of rally. Saw really good results with the Vine and Veg, kind of what we've been seeing in the trials, and something I'd maybe consider next year if you're going to be planting canola. Here's our Grow More trial. This was out at Rick Bestel's. This is the same field that Rick seeded those 2 rounds of those 2 new experimentals. Just like we saw in the strip trials, 9224 won the trial here at 2,031 pounds. If you look at the picture over here on the right side, you'll see this black line that runs down through the center of it. Everything left of that black line is actually west. Everything on the right is east. You can see we had Liberty Link variety trials. And I had some Roundup drift. Went out there with the 4-wheeler sprayer. This was right, I'd say 6-leaf canola, probably 10 days before it was ready to bloom. Ran the Roundup first, cleaned out the sprayer. Then I made those Liberty applications. I think it was 22 ounces of Liberty with 12 ounces of clethodim. But anyway, it was kind of a windy day. I think it was blowing 7 to 8. And I was running some stay put in with the sprayer. Still got a little bit of drift though, and took out a few of these Liberty Link varieties right here along the edge. So just word of caution, if you are planting a Liberty Link variety only, really watch Roundup because it will kill it. But weed control, I will say the Liberty clethodim, I was not too happy with the results. 2 years ago in Doug Stout's trial, that application worked really well. Out here though, that Liberty, we missed quite a bit. There was some China lettuce that I had to come back and backpack later, some bigger dog fennel that it missed. And then the clethodim, this field's actually pretty darn good for Italian ryegrass, but there was a few plants here that, the Liberty or the clethodim didn't touch. This is the trial that I really put a lot of merit into. If you've listened to me talk in the past or watch these videos where we're going over plot data, how a variety yields to the trial mean, that's really where I put my faith into. So now that we've had 4 years of data, 2 trials each year, we have 8 data sets, and that's where I start really getting confident and recommending varieties. You can see here 9221, 110% of the trial mean. If it's a wet year or a drought year, that variety always tends to be toward the top. Once again, it's early, has fairly good shatter resistance, maybe not as good as 9978 or 344, but once again, it's super solid. And I think once you go to cut it, that's probably the biggest compliment I hear from farmers, that they just really enjoy cutting that variety. Going through the product guides, this is Croplands. These are the 3 varieties that they still offer and that we sell. 930, still a really good choice. As you saw in this year's trials at Clark's, it actually won the trial. Real early variety, about the same maturity as 9221. A little cheaper seed cost. That's probably the biggest benefit why guys still want to grow it. It's going to, be $15-20 an acre cheaper. The yield, though, it depends on the year. It's either at the trial mean. Of course, this year Clark's that won it. It doesn't have the True Flex trait, so you're only going to be able to make that one application at 22 ounces or two applications at 12. Whereas the True Flex varieties, you're able to go up to 44 ounces. 9978, like I said, I'll just kind of jump through these, but 9221, has black leg tolerance. I think that's one thing I haven't personally seen yet. I know there's a couple fields in the Pullman area got diagnosed last year. Growers on the Camas Prairie, they've had blackleg now for 4 or 5 years. I think it's kind of like stripe rust and wheat, though. Any good strobe fungicide, that early application should take care of it for you. Of course, here we have 930. Here we have Canterra 2600. This one's done extremely well at our trials over the years. I think it's the #1 raised canola in Canada for Roundup Ready trait. Takes a lot of acres. Strong performer down here. Once again, just a little, probably too big a stalks. It's a little on the late side. And then it's kind of a tangly mess when you go to cut it. Here we have 344 in Vigor. This variety we did not sell last year. It wasn't available in 22. Really good choice. Fairly tall variety. That's, I think it feeds well into the header. It's not quite as tangly as 9978 or 2600, but it's tall. You're going to have to run the reel all the way up. And, it's a little later maturing variety as well. 354, this is the variety that we sold quite a bit of in 22 when 344 wasn't available. Probably the biggest knock on it's fairly late, maybe almost too late, my opinion. I think if you can't get it seeded by 1st of May, it's probably not going to start blooming till the first week of July. So if we continue to keep getting our really hot Julys, that's a later variety like this one, my opinion. Some years is just too late. Looking at ideal seed rates for plant populations, of course, in 22, kind of that 9 plants per square foot's been the sweet spot. 2024, though, if you start factoring in the seed cost versus the yield, you can see here between Albion and Genesee, had the highest yield at 1,940 pounds. Of course, you're saving that pound seed rate. Ended up being your best net return. But like I already mentioned, really pay attention, to your seed to soil contact. If you're more conventional, I think you can get by with those lighter plant populations. If you're pulling a hoe drill, seeding into standard stubble, you've got a lot of duft out there. That's where I think, I wouldn't take the risk, and I'd be more at that 9 plants. So here we go. Here's our 2025 prices. Build out the postcard. Hopefully you guys got this in the mailbox. In season, next year, virtually same prices as last year on the Winfield varieties. You're going to save 8% if you buy that seed early. One thing nice about Winfield, we have Bo Blashley, who lives in Pomeroy. He's a great resource. He's a phone call away. If you need him to come look at a field, he's going to be right there. In bigger varieties, they actually sell by the seed. So you buy a bag, that bag's supposedly supposed to seed 10 acres. like I already mentioned, cut that plant population back a little bit. You might be able to get, say, 11 or 12 acres out of this bag, but depending on seed size, that bag might be 40 pounds or it might be, 45 pounds. Excuse me. Here we have Cantera seeds. It's got an early order as well. A $55 bag savings if you pay for it by December 15th. So one thing on the Invigor lines, I did not mention it. You don't have to pay for those varieties early. You'll get invoiced the month after you take that seed out. But if you book by December 10th, you get a $50 a bag rebate that you'll get the following year. Just to wrap up, if you've never raised canola before, I think most guys have now if you are purchasing seed, but you need to get an accelerate Roundup Ready agreement. Brian Sloot at Colfax, give him a call if you don't have an account or you're not sure if you have an agreement signed. He can look that up for you or help you get one. It's an evergreen agreement, so if you signed one 5 years ago, you're good to go. So one thing I want to mention, just wrapping up here, we still get farmers who might buy their canola seed from, their ag chem dealer or another company, but they deliver their crop to us. If you look at our seed prices and you compare them to the competition, I think we're very, very, very competitive. And then, if you deliver that crop to us, we're going to kick back 25 cents, a 100 weight, so about five, on a ton crop, that's going to be about $10 an acre. You correlate that to your canola seed, it's about a $65 bag savings. So, you factor that in. I know we're the cheapest. And then the other thing I just want to mention, we've had really good patronage with the seed division the last couple of years. I think 2 years ago, we paid back almost 2% cash. This last year, I think patronage wise, we were about 5.5% return, but we paid back, I think, 2.3% in cash patronage. So 2 years ago, that would have been, $15, $16 a bag dividend that would return cash to you. This last year, it was closer to $18 a bag. So anyway, I think we're already maybe the cheapest out there on our canola prices, and then you factor in our patronage. Hopefully that kind of seals the deal. Other than that, I just, once again, I want to thank everyone for supporting PNW this last fall. We had a great seed season. Once again, another record. We continue to get on more and more acres out there. I want to thank Shannon and the rest of the field staff. Shannon, I don't know how many acres he sprayed with a 4-foot boom this last year, but he did a lot of work looking at different foliar treatments, fungicides, insecticides. We'll share that this winter with you. And the other thing to consider, if you decide to buy your canola seed from PNW, with our agronomy staff, we'll all come out. We'll help you set the drills. Make sure you're getting good seed to soil contact. We'll come out and maybe scout for insects later on. Really there to help you through, especially if you're a first-time grower or if this is the first year you're looking at it. So thank you, and hope everyone have a wonderful winter and happy holidays. Can't believe it's already the 3rd of November. Thanks, everyone.